So, what if you could program life itself? I'm not talking about code for your computer, but the actual foundational code of all living things, DNA. Imagine for a second that you could turn a single living cell into a microscopic factory, one that's designed to build pretty much whatever we need. This isn't some far off science fiction. This is the incredible world of microbial engineering, and it's happening right now. Take a look at this. It might look like a futuristic blueprint or some kind of sci-fi schematic, but what you're seeing is a representation of something very, very real, a biological machine. This is a single cell that has been engineered to work as a tiny, hyper-efficient production line. So what do we actually call this? Well, the discipline behind all of this is called microbial engineering. At its heart, it's the science of designing and, literally constructing these tiny organisms, turning them into microscopic powerhouses that can create all sorts of valuable products basically on our command. And let me tell you, this is not just some fascinating little lab experiment. We're talking about a full-blown industrial revolution that's happening at a microscopic scale. The impact is absolutely massive, and it is already changing our world in some really profound ways. Okay, so that's the big question, right? If you can build these tiny, living factories, what exactly are they making for us? Well, the answer, it's huge. It spans across entire industries. Right now, there are 4 key sectors that are being totally transformed by this technology. In medicine, these little factories are producing complex, life-saving drugs. In food and agriculture, they're creating new ingredients and preservatives. They're also literally building our future with sustainable chemicals and fuels, and even crafting advanced materials, like bioplastics. And these aren't just vague categories either. We're talking about specific, life-changing products. Things like the antibiotics that save lives, like erythromycin, advanced food preservatives, like niacin, even bioplastics, known as PHAs, that can help us build a much more sustainable world. All of it built by these tiny cellular workers. And if you want to put a number on it, get this. The global biologics market, which leans heavily on this tech, was estimated to hit an incredible $400 billion by 2025. This shows you that this is not some niche science. It is a cornerstone of the modern global economy. And that's because it lets us create things more efficiently, more sustainably, and with capabilities we've just never had before. All right, so we know the what and the why, but what about the how? How do scientists actually pull this off? I mean, what does the engineer's blueprint for designing a living factory even look like? Well, it really boils down to 3 absolutely critical design decisions. First, you have to choose your chassis. That's the basic type of cell you're going to use. Second, you select the specialist workforce, the specific organism that's going to do the job. And third, you set the production schedule to get the most out of it. It is a true engineering process from top to bottom. Now, that first decision, choosing the chassis, that is the most foundational choice an engineer makes. And it really all comes down to a fundamental trade-off. Are you going for raw speed, or do you need sophisticated craftsmanship? And that choice really boils down to 2 types of cells. Over on the left, we've got the simple, streamlined structure of a bacterium. That's a prokaryote with no nucleus. And on the right, you see the complex, compartmentalized world of a yeast cell, a eukaryote, with all its DNA packed neatly in a nucleus. These are your 2 primary platforms. So let's actually put them head to head. You've got the prokaryotic platform, which is mostly bacteria, going up against the eukaryotic platform, which includes things like yeast and fungi. Okay, here's the best way to think about it. Bacteria, they're like the perfect assembly line for standardized parts. They're simple, they divide incredibly fast, and they're super cost-effective for high-volume manufacturing. Yeast, on the other hand, they're more like an artisan's workshop. They have all this complex internal machinery that's needed to build unbelievably intricate products, like the complex human proteins used in modern medicine. You just can't make that stuff in the simpler system. But it's wild to think that we weren't always able to make these kinds of sophisticated design choices. This entire field has gone on this monumental journey, shifting from just getting lucky to designing with actual intent and purpose. You can really see this journey in 2 distinct ages. On the left, that's the age of discovery. Back in 1928, Alexander Fleming accidentally found that a mold, penicillium, was killing bacteria in his lab. It was a total chance observation. Now fast forward to the age of engineering on the right. In 1982, scientists didn't wait for chance. They took the human gene for insulin, they inserted it into E. coli bacteria, and they deliberately turned that bacterium into a dedicated insulin factory. And really, that was the turning point. The development of what's called recombinant DNA technology, basically the ability to cut and paste genes, that was the moment everything changed. It was the moment we went from just finding useful microbes to actively designing them, and it launched the entire biopharmaceutical sector. To put it as simply as possible, this is the story of humanity learning to speak the language of life itself. We've gone from just finding what nature had already created to purposefully telling nature what to build for us next. And that brings us to the biggest, most exciting question of all. We now have the tools to program the very source code of biology. We have successfully turned simple cells into some of the most powerful factories on Earth. So the only real question left is, what are we going to ask the code of life to build first next?